Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. People can join us in flight if they want to. The purpose of this meeting is primarily to acquaint you all with the kind of the full dimensions of the role you have as a point of contact, but perhaps more significantly than that, to give you all the information you need to get started recruiting kids. So I have got a outline I'm going to put up here, and then we're just going to kind of follow this outline. I want you all to feel free to chime in with questions when you have them. You don't need to wait till the end for that. All right, you ought to be, are you all looking at the outline up there? Okay. All right, let me just walk through this and talk about these items as we go down here. As you know, you're all the single point of contact with the RYLA team for your club. And that is meant to be a two-way street. If people in your club have issues or questions for RYLA, you can relay them to us. And if we have any kind of issues or problems, which will come up as we proceed towards the event itself, you are going to be the person we call to deal with those problems on the club end of things. We want you to be knowledgeable of the RYLA processes and deadlines. Most information that you need to know is going to be found under the tab on the district homepage. I'm going to stop here just a minute and bring that up to make sure everybody knows where that is and what's out there. So I'm going to stop this one and bring up another one. Yep, got the same one back up again. Let's try that again. All right, so you're looking now at the district homepage. That's you find it by going to rotary7670.org, and it is not a page that needs a sign in. Whatever you need, you can do it from here without any sign-in credentials. And here's what I want you to show you here. If you look on the left-hand side of this page, you'll see this tab called RYLA. And if you click on that tab, what ought to come up here? There it is. What ought to come up is two files. One says RYLA for students, and one says RYLA for Rotarians. Let me open up the student file for just a second here. And this is the information that's currently posted out there for the students. One is a student flyer document, which is designed to be handed out to students or discussed with them online. That kind of gives a bunch of reasons for why they might want to go to RYLA. Kind of some very general stuff about what RYLA is and why it would be good for them. There's another document out here called Information for Parents. And when the kids start filling out an application, one of the things they're going to have to do is get parental signatures, and they're going to want to inform their parents about what's going on. So this document that's called Information for Parents is basically designed to tell the parents that that their kids will be in good hands, that we've got a meaningful program, that we're going to conduct it safely, and how to get hold of anybody if anything comes up in the interim. And the last thing out there is the application, or we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So if you go back and you go to the RYLA for Rotarians file, this is the one you will primarily be interested in. And we're going to talk about several of these documents in a little more detail but I just want you to look at everything that's out there. Okay, you've got the recruiting process for coaches. You got the recruiting process for students. You've got a job description for coaches. You've got a link to get students to the application. And basically, as far as I can tell, all the information you will really need to do your job to help us recruit coaches and to get students applied and properly registered, all that information ought to be out there. And if during the course of anything that comes up here in the next few months, you find out there's information out there or there isn't information that you need, please tell me about it and I'll get it out there. All right, so let me go back to the outline here again. There it is. Okay, so the most of the information you need will be on the RYLA tab, and we're going to talk through some of that because it is not intuitive, some of it. Okay, so the other thing that your responsibility is, you guys are the marketer in chief. And that means for getting students and for getting coaches. Okay, so if somebody needs to go to the school and talk to the school about what RYLA is and why they ought to give their kids a day off to school, you're kind of the ones that ought to lead the charge there. Now, if you got somebody in your club who wants to do that and is good at it, go ahead. And it just didn't say you're the only one that needs to do these things, but we're looking for you to be in charge of those activities. Here's one that gets overlooked sometimes, and that when we did the last round 2019, we had some problems with. We're looking for the RYLA point of contact to be the person that is the communications link with both the student and with the parents. We had students apply last time who didn't know what club they were with, didn't know who to talk to in their district. We had parents asking us questions as well. And we do our best to answer those questions, but candidly, those things can be addressed better by somebody local. And so we're asking you to be in charge of making sure those communications happen properly. And of course, when we get right down to RYLA, the clubs are responsible for transportation for the students. And if there's any difficulties with that, then we're going to talk to you about that. Also, if there's any questions about the application, if it's incomplete or the email doesn't work or something like that, we're going to get back to you as the point of contact to straighten that out for us. So that's all I was going to say about your role. Anybody have any questions about that?
Not so much a question, Mike, but a comment. I know currently, at least in Hickory Public Schools, outside people cannot come in. I mean, I can't, even as a retiree, I can't go volunteer. I can't go in. Okay. So that's going to be, I mean, we can use the communication, through email or whatever, but I think that's going to hamper us a little bit.
Yeah, it will. You have interact clubs there in your club?
No.
Okay. Well, you're going to want to deal with the school administration then.
Right.
And some students. And, it can be done through Zoom and email. It's like you said, it's going to hamper you a bit. But I'm going to encourage you to try to do that anyway.
Right. The thing I would recommend to other points of contact that may not have school experience, if you send a school administrator an email, I promise you it will get lost in the 10 million emails that we get a day. So you may want to call and set up perhaps a Zoom to do that. if we just send emails out to school folks, that's not going to be effective. So we're going to have to work a little bit harder to be able to get our proverbial foot in the door to be able to have a conversation about it.
Okay, that's a good point, Jenny. Do any of the other ones of you out there have the same situation with your school district that you're not allowed in? Or do you know? My school district will let us in, but they pretty tightly control it. They don't let you walk the hallways or anything like that anymore.
Mhm.
All right. All right, so real quickly on why RYLA, you can read these items up here. The thing, I've been going around talking to clubs with a RYLA talk. And one of the things I emphasize when I'm doing that is this is a fantastic opportunity for students in your district. I talk to people all the time that are Rotarians and some not, that will tell you that they went to RYLA and it changed the trajectory of their life, made them think they could do things they didn't know they could do, and it had a lifelong impact on them. And, this year with the Rotary theme, we're all in here to, serve to change lives. Here's for $300. You can have a pretty good chance of changing a life. So that's my pitch on that. It's a district-wide project. The district goal for this year is 150 students. When we did this RYLA last time in 2019, we had 87 students attended RYLA. When we were going to do it in 2020, before we had to pull the plug, we had 108 students signed up. I've set a goal of 150 students for this year. Our venue can handle many more than that. But, all indications that I've got are that the students are raring to go. They are looking for these kind of opportunities. It remains to be seen how the parents feel about that. But I don't think the kids are going to be the problem this year. And for some clubs, that might take a different approach to recruiting. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So what is RYLA? I hope you all know what RYLA is. I just mentioned I've been going around talking to clubs. And what I found is a lot of people haven't really heard anything about RYLA since we were doing the week-long format in Brevard, which we stopped doing in 2016, I think. So we're doing this 3-day format now, and we've kind of changed our target and the way we do things. And I'm going to give you, if you don't know that, or you just want to see a refresh on that, I did a RYLA presentation on that subject to the Asheville Club last Thursday. I've recorded that session and I will be posting it tomorrow. And you will probably get at it through a link in the RYLA for Rotarians that I showed you a little earlier. So if you want a refresher on what we're doing at RYLA, and that will cover how we do it, what we go about doing, what the facilities are like, what the timelines are, and it will give you a very general overview of the whole 3-day weekend. And so that would be your choice at this point, is to look at that. All right, so let's get down to the purpose of this meeting. I am asking everybody to start recruiting immediately. It's time to start looking for kids and signing them up. We can't reach our district goal of 150 kids without more club participation. And by that, I'm asking for clubs to send more RYLArians to RYLA. And I'm also asking for clubs that didn't participate in 2019 to think about sending a student or two. And in 2019, we had 32 out of 48 clubs in the district participated. In my opinion, I already told you how I feel about the opportunity for kids, my opinion, every club ought to be sending whatever they can afford to send around. So hopefully we'll get some more clubs participating. We expect to have someone from your club to have talked to the student and the parent, if possible, prior to submitting your application. We had applications coming at us last year from kids that had never seen a Rotarian, didn't know what Rotary is, or any of that stuff. We've got a application process that routes these applications back through you, and that's your opportunity and kind of your responsibility to get back to that kid. You'll have all the information you need to contact them there, and try to contact the kid. And if you can, contact the parents and give them some reassurance that this is a good deal for their kids and that their kids are going to be treated safely when they get there. On that RYLA for Rotarian site, if you look closely at it, there's some documents out there that are designed to give you a hand if you're not interviewing through your Interact Club, or if you're interviewing through Interact Club and also want to go outside of the Interact Club to interview as well. Part of my pitch for RYLA is that RYLA is not equal to Interact. We got a lot of our students from Interact, but that's not the only source. And there are a lot of kids out there who have potential to be leaders, haven't shown it, aren't in RYLA, aren't in Interact. And if you go to that school and ask those administrators who those kids are, they will know. And they'll give you some names pretty promptly. So we're asking to expand the reach of recruiting a little bit, if you can afford it, and if you think it's the right thing to do for your club. And you know, you can see there all the different places you can recruit from. We've actually had a number of pretty good students come in through home school organizations in the various counties. Okay, so yeah, I've got two different paths towards recruiting specified here. If you're recruiting at your Interact clubs, and if you can get into the school, meet with your students as a group or individually to discuss with them what RYLA is, what they will learn, and what kind of students we're looking for. That is in a document on the RYLA for Rotarians called the student flyer. That same document is also in the RYLA for students area if the kids need to refer to it. After you have selected the students you want to sponsor, and as Jenny was pointing out, actually sitting down and with meeting them might be difficult. So you might end up having some Zoom meetings or something like that with the kids. But at some point or other, you will select the kids you want to sponsor. And then you will go down to this application process step down here. Okay, if you're not recruiting through an Interact club, in other words, you don't have a strong relationship with a student group, then we're suggesting that you meet with administrators at the schools, discuss with them what RYLA is and what it's all about. And there's some documents out there that are specifically designed to work with school administration. And they are the ones that are listed here. There's a school administration document out there that has basically what the kids will learn and kind of why it's a good deal for the school to send their kids there. So you can look at that one and see if that'll be used to you. The student flyer has some similar information about what the kids will learn. There also is out there the tentative agenda. It's a work in progress, but I put it out there because if you show that to administrators and they look at what's out there on that 3.5 day agenda, they will see that we have all the students' time planned out. There's not a lot of time when the students are just roaming around doing nothing. Almost every hour of the day has students engaged in some sort of activity that is meant to be a leadership learning experience. Now, to be sure, we have some social time. One of the goals of RYLA is to help these kids form networks of like-minded students in our district. And they will, but you need to provide them time to do that. And so we do. But in general, if the administrators look at that, they're going to see it's a robust program and it's not just fluff and fun for the kids. So, and the next item is kind of an aside. If you don't have a relationship with a school and you want to develop one, for instance, you may be thinking a scholarship program or some other youth program, approaching them with RYLA is a great entree because of the value they will see in it. It's a great entree to get your foot in the door with the school. So you can ask the school to distribute the student flyers to candidates that they think meet the needs or that you've described to them or the kind of students we're looking for. They need to provide names and contact information to you, or if possible, schedule a time where you can come in and talk to some of those kids. Out there on that RYLA for Rotarians, there's some sample interview questions you might want to ask. And then you meet with students individually or as a group, and that may have to be done through a Zoom. They will learn what kind of students we're looking for and what they'll learn. And at some point, you will decide on the students you want to select. And once you do that, you move down to this application process here. Okay, so this process is just a bit convoluted. We are working to smooth it out. I don't think we're going to be able to get it done this year. Our goal is to make it a totally online process where no paper is involved. Unfortunately, one of the things we've got is a need to have parental signatures. And there is not a clean way that's generally accepted by the legal community of having that done in a typewritten fashion. We're trying very hard to come up with one, but I met with a lawyer this afternoon and we're getting closer, but I don't think we're going to get there this year. So I'll explain to you what the difficulty is here in a minute and how we think is the way to mitigate that difficulty. So you're going to need the kids to get linked to the information in the RYLA for Students file. There is a document out there in the RYLA for Rotarians file for you guys to pick up that has the link on it. And what you're going to need to do is print that document out and get it in the hands of the students. All right. There's some information that you're going to need to add to that document that is going to be unique to each club. So we cannot put a document out there that you can just email out without some modification to it. Now, you may find a way of doing that digitally, that's fine, as long as you get that additional information put out there for the kids. So they're going to find out there in that link when they get it, the things you saw earlier, the application information for the parents and the student flyer. This next item deals with that link. And I may modify this just a bit before you get to it, but here's the key thing. Since we need real signatures on this document, the kids are going to have to print it out. We want them all to be filled in online because in the past with documents that are handwritten, there is a great many of them you can't read the information on. And occasionally the information is just wrong. And so we're asking that all of the application itself be typed out online. After they have filled in all that indicative information that's required on the application, then what they're going to need to do is print it out and get the required signatures on the document. All right. Then the problem is getting that document back to you. Once that document is signed and filled out, it needs to come back to you so that you can make sure it's complete. You can understand who's applying to go to RYLA, and then you can return it to the RYLA committee with the appropriate check to cover the students you're covering. So in order for you to do that, there needs to be some information on that link document you distribute to the kids. It needs to have on it your club name. It needs to have on it your name, your email address, and your snail mail address in case the kids are not able to scan it, photograph it, and email it to you. If they can't, they're going to be stuck with mailing that printed application to you. Okay, so they're going to need all that information. So before you get that link material out to them and cut them loose to look for it online, you need to make sure they have that other information in hand. Like I said earlier, we want you to make yourselves available to the students and the parents to answer questions. This kind of goes through what I just talked about. Fill out the applications online, print it out, add the appropriate signatures. There's 4 different places on these forms where you need to add signatures. Make sure you're sponsoring club's name on it. And then once you get the application, you review it for completeness. If you want to aggregate applications and write one check, that's fine. If you want to do one at a time, that's fine too. It's up to you. It's important for you to understand that the RYLA team is doing no vetting of these applications. If you submit it, that kid is in, okay? If you're going to sponsor them and you've written us a check, that kid is accepted to RYLA. When we get that confirmation, when we get the application and it passes muster, that is, it's readable, it's complete, and it has a check with it, then we will send a notification to the kid from the RYLA team that they've been accepted. However, as soon as you submit those applications, you ought to notify that kid as well that you have sponsored them and that their application is on the way. And when we get a little closer to the RYLA event, we're going to use some of that information that's on the application to send those kids some information that's germane to their weekend. It'll have something about what the rules of RYLA are. It'll have something about what to bring and not to bring, what kind of clothes they might want to be wearing, and that kind of information. And we will use the cell number that we're asking them to provide on the application this year as a way of notifying them that that information is in whatever email they sent us. That was one of the other problems we had in 2019, is they gave us an email address, we sent information out, and nobody ever looked at the email address, and they didn't know that they had the information. We had kids miss RYLA because of that, because they didn't know to look in the email that they sent us. So we're going to fix that problem. So that's
Can I?
on application recruiting. If you got questions, Beth?
Yes, I just have one question. In the part where it says, you know, that we need to have our name and club and an address and everything, email address, will this application be where we can put that onto the application?
Yeah, you could put the club name on the application, but the information about who to send stuff to you can't be on there. I mean, that's got to be on a different document someplace.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood. I thought that would be on the actual application. You're saying we need to make sure that that is given to the student.
Given to them so they know where to send that application to.
You said to put it on the flyer, right?
Yes, it's actually in this information that you're seeing right here is also posted in the RYLA for Rotarians. So this exact document I'm reading through is out there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You said that with the problem of having to have the parent's signature.
Yep.
Once they print it, they fill it out, they print it out, the parents sign it. From that point, they are allowed to scan it and email it back.
Yes.
With that, so it doesn't matter that at that point it's electronic.
That's right. And we'll try to fix that next year. We got a couple of ideas on how to do that, but we're not going to get that implemented this year.
Okay, thanks.
We would like the whole process to be completely digital with no paper involved. And we just can't find a way of getting there this year on that. Any other questions? I can only see 5 of you on my screen. So if you go down to the reactions button, I think it is on the bottom of your screen and raise your hand, I think that'll pop up and show me if there's questions. All right, well, let me move on then. So the other thing we need for you to do for us is to find us some Rotarian coaches. There's the information that you see in bold letters there is all available in that RYLA for Rotarians so that you can see what that coaching job is all about. Try to determine some people in your club that might have a passion for youth, might meet the requirements for coaches, and see if you can get some names for me. I would ask you, one of the things I'm saying when I'm going around talking to clubs is, it would be nice if we could bring the average age of Rotarian coaches down a little bit. I think kids will identify more with people that are, a few years younger than guys like me are. So look for those kind of people, and please try to find me some women. At the moment, I've got a list of people that have indicated an interest, and I've got 2 women on that list and about 10 men. And I would like to have a better split. And the percentage of coaches to participants arranged by gender, it doesn't need to be an exact match. I can tell you what the gender breakdown is going to be. It's going to be 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 female and 1/3 male, because that's the way it always seems to be in these deals. But we don't need to have the coaches an exact that breakdown, but we do need to have some female coaches. But we need to have enough to be resident on their floor where they're staying for supervision purposes. So please try to find some females that would be interested in doing this. And we're going to need 1 for every 8 to 10 kids. And so we don't know how many kids we're going to have. I don't know what that number is. I expect that sometime in January, I will have that number. And so what I'm asking for right now is if you find people that have an interest in doing this, just send me their names. I'm going to put them on the list, and we get a little farther down the road and know what our needs are. We'll make some coaching selections at that time. And just some of the basics of coaches. They're going to stay in the same dormitory as the kids. They've got to ensure that kids have fun and are safe in all the things we're doing. Most importantly, they've got to create this family atmosphere with their small group and create a feeling of trust in that group. The ideal coach, there's some thoughts, these aren't specific and aren't requirements. They're just things to think about when you're trying to find coaches. I've already said that the coach's application is available on that district homepage as well. And the requirement is for coaches in particular If they're going to spend a weekend up at Black Mountain, they're going to need to have youth protection training. And they're also going to be invited to have a background check, which they need to accept and do. And if they don't do that, they won't be accepted. Also around this topic of youth protection, one of the things I mentioned earlier that the POCs are responsible for is transportation for the kids. If you got Rotarians transporting kids in a car, you need to make sure they get youth protection training. That's not something that we are going to try to monitor from the RYLA team, because I know a lot of those decisions get made pretty late in the game, but I'm just asking y'all to attend to it. It's a district priority, one of Ken Schul's priorities for the year, student protection. So please try to remember to attend to that. Okay, the last thing.
Can I ask one question? Sorry. I think it's pretty important. I don't think you said it, but I feel like you said it the other night that the coaches can only be Rotarians.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they have to be Rotarian.
They have to
So does Rotaract Club, we have a Rotaract at the university here. Is that considered a Rotarian? Because that would be younger.
Well, I'm going to have to defer to your judgment on that, Tanya, because in general, you know, you got Rotaractors, a lot of times they're 19-year-old. And, you know, the idea to me of a 19-year-old having these kind of chaperone and safety responsibilities over an 18-year-old is not ideal. And part of the coaching job too, when they're debriefing students and trying to draw out of them their concerns and various information that will always comes up, I think it's better to have some people with some life experience under their belt. So we had some Rotaractors as student coaches last year, and generally it worked out okay. The kids love them because they identify with them. But what you don't know is what you're leaving on the table by having somebody that young in that kind of coaching position. So, and I'm not going to say categorically no, but you know, if you're going to get Rotaractors, you know, older is better, more experience is better. And if it's a community Rotaract club and it's just, you know, adults like the rest of us, of course, that's fine. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this? All right. The last thing that I want to talk about is our student advisory group. For the longer term, our goal is when we get RYLA rolling on a year-to-year basis, our goal is we want to select some kids out of the juniors that are attending RYLA who have shown potential, exceptional leadership potential, and you know, the right kind of outgoing personality and all that kind of stuff. We want to invite them to come back the following year as a advisory group that will not only help with some of the planning, but will also help execute the RYLA program. All right. We would love to do that this year, only anybody that went to RYLA in 2019, or almost anybody, has aged out of high school. They're all in college now. So for this year, what we're doing is we're asking for a cadre of students to be selected who will work as a team with the RYLA planning team to design certain aspects of our program. And you all got a note earlier, you may have missed it, but it identified, the note identified some of the things we want those kids to do. One of the main things is we have a social night on Saturday night. I think we got about 3 hours blocked out for it. And it is part of the program. It is part of the opportunity for kids to make connections and network with other kids in the district. But what to do with that time is something we want some help deciding. When we did this in 2019, we had a DJ and a dance. And that worked out okay. But who's to say what those teenagers really want to do? Do they want to have another one of those, or do they want to have a talent show, or do they want to have a game night, or do they want to have karaoke, or, you know, what do they want to do with that night? And so that's one of the things we're going to ask this advisory group to weigh in on. We're also going to ask them to create graphics for the t-shirts so they have some sense of ownership. And we are going to ask them to create the music playlist. We intend to have high energy music going on most of the time when the kids are not engaged in leadership activities. And possibly some of these kids, we may end up asking to come back when they're seniors, just like we plan to do with juniors over the long haul.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
would that be a good place for the Rotaract people that she just mentioned? I mean, could they be part of that, even though they may or may not have experienced a RYLA before? Would that be a good place to kind of include those folks, since they do at least have Rotary experience and knowledge?
well, it's possible that would be a good idea. One of the other things, though, that we're trying to do with this advisory group is we got a 45-minute slot on Sunday before everybody leaves that is going to be all about Interact. So we need some interactors in that group to help decide what to do, what kind of program to put on for the rest of the kids that are attending RYLA. So, but the idea of having a Rotaractor help with some of the planning is not a bad idea. But I want to defer that. We've got 38 Interact clubs in the district. I don't think we're going to get 38 nominees for this advisory committee. And I say nominees advisedly. When somebody sends us the name of an interactor who wants to be on this condition, they're not going to be vetted. They're going to be accepted. So, but, you know, if you did get 38 kids, that becomes a pretty unwieldy group. So I'm going to want to hold that down to some smaller number of kids. And for that reason, I don't want to be adding Rotaractors into the mix really until I know what I'm going to get out of Interact. And then maybe that's a possibility. All right, so if you want to, you can go back through your email if you didn't discard it and look for that original document to describe what we want with these Interact kids. And by the way, we're specifying Interact because we know that there's a lot of clubs that have relationships with kids that are interactors. And it wasn't meant to exclude necessarily kids who aren't in the Interact club, but we figured this is kind of a low-hanging fruit that we can find pretty quickly and get this advisory group put together.
Do the kids on the advisory group, do they need to fill out an application, or are we just sending you their name?
No, they need to fill out an application. And we
where
need
would
to
find that?
get them committed to RYLA now. Well,
Well, they have to fill out an application for RYLA, but to be on that student advisory, do we just email them your information?
You email the name to us and go ahead and have them fill out the application. We'll be looking for them.
Okay.
Okay. I had a thought I was going to mention, it just escaped me though. All right, so, oh yeah, what I was going to say is that when you select somebody and they agree to be on the planning team, make sure they agree with commitment to come back in March and actually be there. It's kind of important. And we had quite a few cases last year where kids signed up and then ended up at the last minute, you know, deciding that, you know, soccer practice was more important. This, to me, I would like to see this be kind of a learning experience for these kids about commitment and making promises. And if you make a commitment, you need to keep it. You don't need to decide at the last minute that something else is more important to you. So, I would ask you all to kind of emphasize that as you're talking to and selecting kids for RYLA. And that, folks, is all I have to say tonight. If you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, Jackie. You're on mute, Jackie.
Okay. Tell me more about this transportation.
Okay, so the club is responsible for getting the kids to and from RYLA. And you can do it in the way you want to do it. A lot of clubs allow the parents to drive the kids and pick them up. That's just fine. And if
Okay.
they want a carpool with other kids going, that's just fine as well. But if it's going to be a Rotarian that's driving that car with the kids, they need to have you.
Right.
The kids, by the way, cannot drive themselves.
Okay. Okay.
That's not allowed.
All right. Okay. But the parents can do it. Okay.
Parents could do it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're most welcome, Beth. Find us some kids. Y'all go forth and recruit.
Now, is this sheet that you've been reviewing, is that somewhere we can access? Is that?
Not the whole thing. The body of this application that I just went through with you is out there on the website. I will send each one of you this whole outline.
Okay, great. That'd be helpful. Thank
Yep.
you.
I have one more question. When's the deadline for the applications?
February 28th.
Okay. February. Okay.
Don't sign off yet. I haven't got your names. Although I've got you recorded, I think. So anyway, let me just get your names down so I know who to send this to. Jenny. Yeah. Jackie. Who else we got out there? Beth.
Yes.
Beth, what's your last name?
McAllister.
McAllister, okay. Who else we got out there that I can't see? Anybody else that I didn't just name? Oh, wait a minute. If I stop share, you're going to come right up. There we go. Oh, John Ross. And I know Larry Keating was out there for a while. Okay. If there's no other questions, have a good
Thank you.
evening, and thanks for your time tonight, Des.
Thank you so much for providing this.
Okay,
Thanks,
Good luck.
Mike.
Bye.
bye.